Welcome to Spooky Ass Shit. I am your host, Eric Dwinnells, and with me tonight, returning for the first time in a little while, Fatima Elmi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm quite well, thank you.
Well, that's good to hear.
A long time ago, I did an episode of Spooky Ass Shit called American Vampires Part 1.
Right.
And on that episode, I said, well, this is just part 1, but I'll do more later, but the problem is there's not a ton of actual folkloric type vampire cases in the US, but there are several serial killers and murderers with vampiric, stories to them.
Okay.
But they're not as fun to tell because you don't get the folklore and the mythology and everything. It's just a messed up person doing messed up things. But I said I would get to it eventually. That was over a year ago.
Lord have mercy.
But here we are, getting ready to present American Vampires Part 2.
Cool.
And this time, specifically, we're going to be talking about the Sacramento Vampire. Now, I want to warn everybody right up front, including you, Fatima.
Okay.
You don't really have a choice, but the listeners have a choice. They can leave because this is a particularly tough subject to talk about. This is technically a comedy podcast, but there's not a whole lot of things that we're going to be able to make funny in this episode.
Okay.
And it's going to be gory. I'm going to skip over some of the more gory details, but you need some of them to kind of understand what's going on here.
Okay.
And just giving everybody that heads up.
Thank you for the disclaimer.
And with that, we will begin our discussion after I remind everyone to visit the website, spookyas.com or spookyasshit.com. They both take you to the same place, and that is the show's blog page. From there, you can listen to each and every episode. You can also find pictures from most episodes and sometimes videos and outtakes and fun stuff like that. You can also find links to all of our social media, including Twitter and Instagram, which are both at SpookyAssShit. And you can also find our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/spookyas.
Cool.
Let's see. Anything else I need to say before we begin? I don't think so.
No.
I already talked about Rock of Ages last week. The sound levels were a little funky on that show.
Really?
Yeah, because there were different people coming in and they sit different ways from the microphone, and I don't have a mixer, so I wasn't adjusting the sounds.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I should start a GoFundMe and get fancier equipment.
Sounds good.
My broke ass ain't buying it anytime soon.
There's plenty of spookaroos out there that would help.
Okay, Fatima, brace yourself. Now, actually, the reason we're doing this particular episode is because we just watched What We Do in the Shadows.
Right, yeah.
Which is a comedy movie.
Yes.
About vampires.
Yep.
I'd seen it before, but you had not.
I had
not. And I said, you're going to like this movie.
It was funny.
You laughed a lot.
I did. Yes.
It's
I did
good.
not want to watch it, but I'm glad I did.
There you go. She did not say that at the time. That's the problem with Fatima. She tries to be nice.
Tries to be nice.
I would rather you just be honest.
Okay.
But
well, buckle up then. Okay.
But another reason I thought you would be a good co-host for this particular episode is because you have been to the grave of the other American vampire that we discussed that I discussed on part 1.
That's right.
Mercy Lewis.
Yes. In Rhode Island.
Correct.
Right.
And we were not the only ones looking for that
No.
grave.
Yeah. There were two
I believe
other
I just said Mercy Lewis, who is actually a Salem witchcraft person, and I meant Mercy Brown, I believe.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I get my Mercies mixed up. Anyway. You were saying something?
No, there were 2 other gentlemen
Yes.
also looking for the grave.
That's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And we helped each other find it.
Yeah.
All right, then. So, let's talk about this motherfucker. All right. This is a case known as the Sacramento Vampire from the late 70s.
Okay.
In Sacramento, California.
Mm-hmm. The capital.
In the United States of America. That's true.
Okay.
It is the capital.
Mm-hmm.
So in early December of 1977, a Sacramento woman called police saying that someone had fired a gun through her kitchen window. No one was harmed, but the police were able to collect a bullet as evidence of the crime.
Okay.
Little warm-up.
Scary.
Days later, on December 29th, 1977, a man named Ambrose Griffin, who was a 51-year-old engineer and a father of two,
Mm-hmm.
stepped out of his front door to help his wife bring in the groceries. He got the groceries out of the back, and as he was returning to his home, he suddenly dropped down to the ground. His horrified wife assumed that he had just had a heart attack.
Right.
And called for paramedics. The paramedics discovered that Griffin had actually been shot. The police found few clues except for some spent .22 caliber shell casings on the street in front of Griffin's home. It seemed to be a drive-by shooting, and police assumed that it was either a tragic accident caused by teens attempting to shoot out streetlights or a random thrill killing. One of Griffin's sons reported seeing a neighbor walking around the neighborhood with a .22 caliber rifle days before the murder. Police questioned the neighbor and seized the weapon and conducted ballistics tests. But they were able to determine that the rifle was not the weapon used in the murder.
Okay.
However, through these ballistic tests, they were also able to determine that the same gun that fired at Ambrose Griffin was the same gun used to fire the shot through the woman's window earlier in the month.
Okay.
On January 23rd, little less than a month after, 1978, police were called to a crime scene where a pregnant woman named Teresa Wallen was found disemboweled.
Oh, no.
On her bathroom floor.
And she was pregnant?
Yes, 3 months pregnant. It appeared she had initially been attacked just outside of her home and then was dragged into the bedroom. I think I said bathroom earlier. I meant bedroom. Her sweater was pulled up, exposing her breasts, and her pants and underwear had been pulled down around her ankles. She had clearly been sexually assaulted. She had been shot and stabbed multiple times and had also been cut open.
Oh, my.
Several of her internal organs had been removed. Blood had been smeared all over the room. There was an empty yogurt cup found next to the body. It too was stained with blood, as if the killer had used it like a cup to collect and drink the victim's blood. There were strange circular markings around the body, leaving police to believe that the killer had carried a bucket.
Oh, okay.
Dog feces was found shoved into the mouth of the victim.
No.
Again, through ballistic testing, they were able to determine that the bullets that were used to kill Teresa Wallen were fired from the same gun that had been used to kill Ambrose Griffin and shoot through the woman's window. Local investigators knew they had a serial killer on their hands and called in the FBI to help.
Good thinking.
Now, I don't want to get too technical, but I'm not sure he really counts as a serial killer. He might be more of a spree killer.
Okay.
But they refer to him as a serial killer. But we can get to that later on.
After 3 incidents?
Yeah, and there's supposed to be a cooling off period. But anyway.
Okay.
FBI agents Russ Vorpagel and Robert Ressler. Robert Ressler is very famous. He was one of the first profilers, and so he's very well known.
Okay.
Created a profile of the killer. They determined that the killer would be a tall, malnourished loner who would be physically unclean, and, most importantly, he would not stop killing.
Oh boy.
Now, I have some conflicting reports about the next killing.
Okay.
I'm going to read you the first one, which is a little bit more sensational, and then I'll tell you what probably really happened.
What you think really happened?
No, what other reports have said, and this is
Okay.
probably what really happened.
Okay.
On January 27th, 1978, a 6-year-old girl knocked on the door of the Myroth family home. The girl had a play date with the Myroth's 5-year-old son, Jason. Waiting for someone to answer the door, the girl saw a skinny, disheveled man covered in blood run past her and get into Myroth's car and drive away. The frightened little girl ran to the neighbor's house and told him what she saw.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the more sensational version.
Okay.
The less sensational version is that the little girl went to the house, knocked on the door, saw somebody like moving inside,
Yeah.
but she didn't see anybody like run past her or anybody covered in blood or any of that kind of thing. But still, she was like, why is no one answering the door? I can see people in there. And she said, this is really weird. I'm getting weirded out here. And then she went to the neighbor, and that's when the neighbor came back. Either way, the little girl goes to the door. Something strange happens.
Mm-hmm.
Either no one answers the door or she sees a man covered in blood run past her. And she goes to the neighbor.
Okay.
And the neighbor comes out, and he is the one who, tries to get an answer at the door. No answer. He breaks down the door,
Mm-hmm.
and he discovers a horrific crime scene
Oh my God.
and calls the police.
Mm-hmm.
Police enter and discover the body of a man named Dan Meredith in the front hall. He had been shot several times in the head. They then discovered the body of Evelyn Myroth. She had been mutilated in a similar way to Teresa and also showed signs of extreme and repeated sexual abuse.
Ay, ay, ay.
2 carving knives, stained with blood, lay nearby. It appeared that she had been taking a bath when she was surprised by her killer and then dragged into her bed. Next to the bed, police discovered the body of 5-year-old Jason, who had also been shot.
Mm.
Police then discovered a bathtub full of blood and full sets of handprints as well as impressions of the killer's shoe in Evelyn's blood.
Okay.
Investigators were told by family members that Dan Meredith was a neighbor and that he had stopped by to check on Evelyn. But they also told police that someone was missing. Evelyn Myroth had been babysitting her 2-year-old nephew, David.
No.
David was not found at the scene.
Oh no.
Karen Fiera, David's mother, arrived and started asking questions about where's her son.
Right.
No one had seen him, and they had never found a body there, but there was a bullet hole in the pillow that had been in his crib.
Ugh.
And a lot of blood.
No. I don't like this story.
Well, I told you. It's a
I know
rough
you
one.
did. I know you did.
Police canvassed the neighborhood looking for any info residents might have regarding the murders at the Myroth's house or the disappearance of baby David. They located an 11-year-old girl in the neighborhood who claimed that she had seen a man near the victim's home around 11 o'clock and described him as thin, dirty, and young-looking. This fit a description of a man repeatedly seen in that area walking around asking people for magazines. As they continued looking around the neighborhood, police were repeatedly told about a scraggly-looking prowler with long hair and a bright orange parka, though no one knew his name or where he lived. Police were reminded of a prowler fitting the same description who had broken into the home of a young married couple, stolen some of their valuables, urinated in the drawer of their infant's clothing,
Gross.
and defecated on their son's bed.
Oh my God.
The couple came home while the intruder was still in the home. The husband attacked him, but the prowler was able to escape.
Ugh.
After all these descriptions, police were able to make a sketch of this prowler, which they wanted in connection with the murder to ask some questions about.
Right.
A local woman named Nancy Holden saw this police sketch and thought she recognized the person it depicted. 5 days after the Myroth murders, Nancy Holden called the police saying she believed her former high school classmate, Richard Chase, could be the killer.
Really? Ooh.
Nancy told police that she was at a shopping plaza when she noticed a dirty, disheveled-looking man coming towards her. The man walked up to her and asked her if she remembered a high school classmate of hers that had died. Thinking it was odd that a filthy stranger knew she would know this person, Nancy asked the man who he was. He replied that he was Richard Chase and that they had gone to high school together. He asked her for a ride, but, frightened by his appearance, Nancy quickly made an excuse, got in her car, and drove away.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, Nancy.
Good for you, Nancy.
This event took place on January 23rd, the very same day Teresa Wallin was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
The police ran a background check on Chase and discovered he'd registered a .22 caliber semi-automatic pistol. Police went to Chase's apartment, but he refused to answer the door. Since they had no search warrant, there was nothing they could do while he was in his apartment. I don't know why they didn't get a search warrant. I don't know much about police work. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe it was because it was just for questioning or whatever. But it seems like, I don't know.
That seems like probable, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That seems very suspicious. He had a gun registered.
Right.
Same caliber.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
Okay.
the police decided to wait it out and attempt to question him if and when he finally came out of the apartment.
Okay.
The landlord told police that the apartment next to Chase's was empty and allowed them entry into it. They could hear movement in Richard's apartment, so they knew that he was home.
Mm-hmm.
They waited patiently, and eventually, thinking that the police had left and trying to get rid of evidence, Richard stepped out into the hallway, carrying a blood-stained box.
Oh, no.
He was also wearing the bright orange parka that had been described, and it was covered with blood,
Oh, my God.
as were his shoes. Inside the box were pieces of shredded, blood-soaked wallpaper and a blood-stained .22 caliber pistol. Police attempted to apprehend Chase, but he struggled hard. Eventually, however, they were able to subdue him. Chase claimed that the bloody wallpaper and the bloody gun were a result of his killing several dogs. When police searched Chase himself, they found Dan Meredith's wallet.
Okay.
So he's covered in blood.
Yeah.
He's got the weapon the police believe was used in the killing.
Yeah.
And he's got one of the victim's wallets on him.
Uh-huh. How does he explain that?
Well, he doesn't really.
Okay.
But that's just the beginning, because that's just them arresting him and searching him.
Mm-hmm.
Now the police have to go into his apartment.
Oh, my God.
What do you imagine his apartment is like?
Yucky, gross, lots of bad stuff.
You've nailed it.
Okay.
So, first of all, there was a funk coming out of the apartment.
Oh, no.
And they said, this is not going to be good.
Mm-mm.
Detectives performed a search of Chase's apartment. They found the walls, floor, and ceiling covered in blood.
Oh, my God.
The refrigerator, plates, cups, and all of Chase's eating utensils were also soaked in blood.
Ugh.
On the counter was a blender caked in coagulated blood and what was left of various internal organs mixed with Coca-Cola.
Mm-mm.
Inside the refrigerator, police found several animal body parts wrapped in aluminum foil. But they also found what appeared to be parts of human brains in Tupperware and several pieces of human body wrapped in saran wrap.
Ugh.
On another counter were several pet collars. On his kitchen table, he had spread out numerous diagrams depicting various aspects of the human body. There was a calendar that showed the inscription "Today" on the dates of the Wallin and Myroth murders. And, most terrifying of all, the same word was written on 44 more dates yet to come during that year.
Really? Ooh.
So it
Creepy.
seems like they got him pretty dead to rights
Well, that's good.
for these murder charges, right?
Yeah.
But when he's first arrested, Chase denies any knowledge or involvement in any of the murders or the disappearance of baby David, which He still has not been found.
We don't know. Okay.
Chase claimed that he only ever killed dogs. He refused to speak about the murders, although he went on and on about a bizarre conspiracy theory involving blood poisoning by his mother, Nazis, and Italians.
Okay.
We'll get more into that later.
Okay. Not all there. Got it.
2 months after he'd gone missing,
Mm-hmm.
the mutilated body of baby David was discovered behind a church by the church's caretaker.
Oh.
It had been placed in a cardboard box, along with the keys to Dan Meredith's car.
Okay. Oh my God.
So let's talk a little bit about the background of Richard Chase.
Okay.
He was born in 1950, and he was raised in a strict household, where it was claimed that he was often beaten by his father.
Mm-hmm.
But how often is often? And back in those days, people were saying, like, yeah, it was maybe slightly more than, like, average, but a lot of people were kind of beaten by their dads in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're basically just saying, like, this isn't what caused him to become what he became. Not alone, anyway.
Okay, I was going to say it could have contributed,
Yes.
though. Okay.
Reports are that in his teens, he began to drink and became an alcoholic. He also began killing and mutilating animals and starting fires.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, anyone who knows anything about murderers knows that these are very typical signs.
That's how it starts.
If you have a child and you catch them mutilating animals or setting fires,
Mm-hmm.
Also I think wetting the bed is like another one. Like wetting the bed like much later in life than is normal.
Okay. Yeah, I think wetting the bed is like a sign of trauma or something.
Yeah,
too,
it could be any number of things.
Right.
Yeah, but just saying,
Mm-hmm.
keep an eye on your kids.
Sure, absolutely.
And if it seems like something's going on, get help. That's going to be actually one of the main things we talk about here with this particular person.
Okay.
So in high school, Chase actually did have a handful of girlfriends, but he was unable to maintain lasting relationships. And he says the reason for this was that although he was attracted to them, he was unable to get aroused by women. Chase was seen by a psychologist during his high school years, and he was told that the root of his problems was most likely mental illness. After receiving this news, Chase refused further treatment.
Ugh.
It would later be determined that Chase had an aversion to conventional sex and could only achieve arousal and orgasm through violent and disturbed acts such as killing animals and necrophilia.
Eek.
As an adult, Chase lived with his mother, but it was kind of a strained relationship because he was constantly accusing her of attempting to murder him via poison.
Really?
His son kept showing more and more bizarre behavior, so the father purchased an apartment for Richard Chase and forced him to move out of the house.
Oh, he didn't want him living in the house. Okay.
Alone in this new apartment, Richard Chase began to capture, kill, and disembowel various animals, which he would then eat raw.
Ugh.
He began to put bits of the animals and their entrails into blenders to make smoothies, along with his Coke.
Oh, gross.
Chase reasoned that by drinking these smoothies, he was preventing his heart from shrinking. He feared that if his heart shrank too much, it would disappear, and then he would die.
Okay.
So given all this, in 1975, Chase was involuntarily committed to a mental institution. Now this happened because he had been taken to the hospital for blood poisoning. He actually did have blood poisoning. But he contracted it after injecting rabbit blood into his own veins.
Oh.
The other patients in the institution gave Chase the nickname Dracula due to his obsession with blood.
Okay.
Chase escaped from the hospital and went home to his mother. He was apprehended, however, and this time he was sent to an institution for the criminally insane. It was here that he would often tell the staff about his fantasies about killing rabbits. There was an incident where he was found with blood smeared around his mouth, and the staff discovered that he had captured 2 birds through the bars in his windows, and that he had snapped their necks cut them open, and then drained their blood right out of the bird.
Okay.
So at this point, now even the staff at the hospital and the institution were calling him Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
While he was there, he complained that someone had stolen his pulmonary artery and that his head kept changing shape.
Oh my God.
Chase thought that his blood was turning into powder and that a Nazi crime syndicate had been hunting him since he was in high school. And they were also attempting to pay his mother to poison him.
Oh, man.
After undergoing a battery of treatments involving psychotropic drugs, Chase was deemed no longer a danger to society.
Oh, come on.
And in 1976, he was released into the recognizance of his parents.
Ugh.
So now he's back, and his parents have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
But during this time, his mother saw him and saw that he was doing well with these drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, she said, oh, he's doing so well, he doesn't need to take these drugs anymore. And she began to weed him off his anti-schizophrenia medication.
Come on. No.
In 1977, the court-awarded conservatorship expired.
Ugh.
And his parents did nothing to renew it. So once again,
They just let him go.
Chase was on his own.
Yeah.
So basically the court had said, like, we're going to release him, but you've got to, like, be in charge of him.
Right.
Like, he can't handle his own life. You need to be in charge.
And then they didn't renew that conservative, whatever it is.
Yes.
Thank you. 1977.
Yes.
And that's when shit went down.
Yeah, and later in that year. So Chase got another apartment on his own.
Okay.
But he would still visit his parents. And some days, he would bring lovely gifts. For example, one day, his mother found him at her door holding a dead cat. Chase threw the cat down and tore it open, smearing its blood all over his face and neck before fleeing. His mother didn't report this incident to anybody.
Ugh.
Police or court officials or psychiatric officials, nobody.
Right. No.
She was just like,
that's completely normal.
Richard being Richard.
Yeah. That's our boy. Mm-mm.
During this time, Chase became obsessed with guns, and he bought several of them. He also became obsessed with news reports about the serial killers, the Hillside Stranglers, who he believed were also the victims of this Nazi blood conspiracy that Chase himself was also a victim of.
Okay.
He began to lose interest in caring for himself, and he neglected his personal hygiene and stopped eating.
Mm-hmm.
On August 3rd, 1977, officers on a routine patrol noticed an abandoned pickup truck on a beach inside of an Indian reservation. They examined the vehicle and found 2 rifles, a pile of clothing, and a bucket full of blood, and what appeared to be some kind of internal organ inside the bucket. The officers scanned the area with binoculars and saw a naked man covered in blood sitting on a rock. It was Richard Chase. Surprise, surprise. Chase saw the officers looking at him, and he immediately began to run in the other direction. The officers were able to catch Chase, however. When they caught him, Chase claimed that the blood in the truck and on his body was his own. He said it was seeping out through his skin.
Okay.
That's all this episode is going to be. Just me reading the story and you sighing deeply into the microphone. The officers took Chase to jail on suspicion of homicide, but after testing, it was determined that the blood and the liver found in the truck both belonged to a cow. Richard Chase was released without any kind of charges.
Of course.
It seems like there still should be like some kind of like just like general weirdo charges or something. That's super not cool.
I don't think you can.
Like, where'd you get the cow from?
No, you can't charge people with just being a weirdo.
Okay, but you're covered in blood with 2 rifles in your car and you're sitting on a rock on an Indian reservation?
Yeah. Did you
You're
say
fine
he was
with
naked?
that? Yes,
no,
he was naked.
I'm not
Well,
fine with it.
So that should be a crime.
I'm just saying they can't do that. But yes, he should be like red flagged. Like something is not right.
Yeah. So, that was his previous life. But now, after these murders, he finds himself in police custody once again.
Yes.
And there's a whole mountain of evidence against him.
Yes.
Chase knew that it was hopeless to plead innocent, and he told police that he would confess to his crimes.
Okay.
So he sat down with FBI agent Robert Ressler, and Ressler asked him how he selected his victims. Chase said that all he did was go down the street testing doors to find one that was unlocked.
Mm.
If the door was locked, he said, that means you're not welcome.
Uh-huh.
So if it's open,
come on in.
that means come on in, drink my blood, rape my corpse.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Ugh.
So now Chase tells police about the murders. Chase claimed that his blood had been poisoned, and that this blood poisoning was causing him physical pain that he could not bear. The only way to relieve his pain was through other people's blood. He used animal blood at first, but it wasn't strong enough. He knew he needed human blood. For practice, he shot into the window of one home, and then, from his car, he shot Ambrose Griffin when he was bringing in his groceries.
Oh, yeah.
Chase actually attempted to break into several homes on the day that he killed Teresa Wallen, but all the other doors were locked.
Mm-hmm.
Teresa's door happened to be open because she was in the middle of bringing out her garbage. So that was the first unlocked door he came to. She had brought out one bag and was going back in to get another bag to bring out.
Mm-hmm.
Before entering, Chase had taken out one of his .22 caliber bullets and put it in Teresa's mailbox.
Okay.
He opened her front door and confronted Teresa as she was taking out another bag of garbage. She dropped the trash bag that she'd been carrying as he raised his pistol and shot her twice. She fell dead, and then Chase knelt over the prostrate body, firing another bullet into her temple. He then dragged her body into the bedroom, leaving a trail of blood behind him. He then went to the kitchen and stole a knife and the empty yogurt container from the trash bag that Terry had been carrying. He sexually assaulted Terry's body, and as he did so, he began to cut into her neck and then into her stomach and dissect her organs. Some he left at the scene, some he carried away with him.
Mm-hmm.
Chase smeared blood all over the room, as well as all over his face and hands. He said he took the empty yogurt container from the trash bag to use as a cup to collect and drink her blood from. He took her organs and put them in a bucket. When he was finished, he found the dog excrement outside in the front yard and shoved it in Terry's mouth.
Ugh. Gross.
Yeah, he doesn't say why he did this necessarily. He just says that he did it. When he gets onto the Myroth murders, he actually says like he doesn't remember a ton about the murders. But what happened is he found their door unlocked. He entered and encountered Dan Meredith, the neighbor, in the front hall. Chase shot him several times in the head. He then stole Meredith's wallet and car keys from the body. But as he did this, he was spotted by 5-year-old Jason Myroth. So Jason ran into his mother's bedroom attempting to hide. Chase got up and was about to go and murder Jason.
Mm-hmm.
But on his way, he discovered baby David in his crib.
Mm-hmm.
And he shot him in the head.
Oh.
Then he went into the bedroom where he shot 5-year-old Jason, also in the head, twice at point-blank range.
Oh, my God.
Chase then went into the bathroom where Evelyn was bathing. Apparently, she did not hear the gunshots, and she was surprised by Chase. Chase immediately shot her once in the head, and she died.
Mm-hmm.
He dragged her body back into her bedroom, where he repeatedly sodomized it and drank blood from a series of slices that he had made in the back of her neck. He then further mutilated the body, much like he had with Teresa's, and drained its blood into a bucket. Chase then returned to the body of baby David. He took the body to the bathroom. Swear it gets real bad.
Okay, yeah. This is disturbing.
He split open the skull, and he began to eat its brains.
Ugh.
This is when he heard a knock on the front door.
Oh, it was
Startled,
the neighbor.
he fled home, carrying the body of baby David with him. He made his getaway in the car that had belonged to Dan Meredith.
Mm-hmm.
When he got back to his apartment, he further dismembered the baby's body and ate parts of it. During his trial, Chase claimed that he didn't know it was a human baby he was eating. He thought it was, quote, something else. But he never elaborated on what he may have thought it was, other than a baby.
Oh, my God.
So, and then he got rid of the body behind the church.
Mm-hmm.
So now the question is he sane or insane? Because he's going to trial.
Right.
He's definitely guilty.
Yeah.
He definitely did it. There's no question about that.
He confessed to it all.
They've got handprints. They've got confessions. They've
Right.
got shoe prints. He had the wallet on him. They found the keys under the baby that was dead. So they've got evidence.
Yeah.
But is he sane or insane? Because he's pleading
Right.
insanity, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
And you hear about the crime, so you think, of course, well, obviously this is not a sane person.
Mm-hmm.
But that is what our heart says.
Right.
But it's not what the legal definition of insane is.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States, the legal definition is, did the person know what they were doing was wrong when they were doing it? Did they know
Right.
it was a crime?
Right.
And the way you would look at that is, did they try to cover it up?
Right.
Did they plan it? Well, the thing is, he didn't really plan it. He just went up and down the neighborhood looking for unlocked doors.
Okay.
But on the other hand, it seemed like he had the dates picked out.
I was going to say,
his
look back
calendar.
at his calendar. He had multiple dates already planned.
He brought gloves to some of the crime scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Shows planning again.
Yeah.
But he didn't use them.
Okay.
He left several bullets all over the place, which is how they started tracking him. He left handprints.
Yeah.
He left semen.
Yeah. He was careless.
Right. Very, what they would call disorganized killer.
Sure.
And then he's got all these stories about blood poisoning and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what the court were saying.
Right.
Chase took the stand in his own defense.
Ugh.
He did not look well. He looked very sick, actually. He dropped weight. He had already lost weight when he stopped eating.
Mm-hmm.
When he was, like, losing his mind.
Yeah.
But he actually dropped down to just 107 pounds
Ugh.
for his trial.
Yeah.
His eyes were sunken. He just didn't look good overall.
Mm-hmm.
He claimed that he was only semi-conscious during the Waller murder. And he went on to describe how he'd been mistreated all of his life. He did admit to drinking Wallen's blood. He did, and that's when he said he didn't recall too much about the Myroth murders.
Mm-hmm.
But he did remember taking the baby, but again, didn't really know it was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
He blamed the whole thing on his inability to have sex with girls when he was a teenager. And he did apologize for the killings. If that makes anybody feel better.
No.
No, I didn't think so.
Nope.
So the defense said, look, he's definitely guilty. We know that. But we're asking for second-degree murder because he's not sane.
Okay.
So second-degree murder, he wouldn't get the death penalty.
Right.
Also, like, it's like he didn't get the proper help that his condition required.
Well.
So he can't be held fully responsible for these murders.
Okay. I mean, I kind of see that.
The prosecution was like, this motherfucker is a sexual sadist and he's a monster, and there's nothing that anybody could have done to make him not a monster.
Mm-hmm.
This is how he is. Whether it's a mental condition or not, He's very dangerous. There's nothing anybody could have done to help him. So let's just execute this guy.
Well, if he was kept away, like kept in the mental institution.
So that would be your vote?
Yeah.
Like a life in prison? Because here's the thing, like, this crime is very gruesome, and I've heard about it before, but I never heard all these details. And trust me, there's even more that I'm not getting in. Like, it's worse than I'm saying.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that.
You can look it up. Actually, a lot of what I'm saying is coming from Murderpedia, and you can look it up there. They have like 4 or 5 different versions you can scroll through and read, and some of them are very detailed.
Yeah.
And it's way worse than I'm even describing. And I think it's been pretty rough on the show.
Yeah.
But it's even worse than that.
I don't want to.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep it like somewhat light. It's not, but trust me, compared to things that we could be talking about, it is.
Yikes. Okay. Yeah.
But it reminds me of like Jeffrey Dahmer or Ed Gein.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ed Gein committed very bizarre, to say the least, crimes as well. He only committed 1 confirmed murder, but and there was the grave robbing and all that. We'll talk about him some other time.
You haven't talked about him before?
No, no. But yeah, but it's funny to me that like we know the basic details of Jeffrey Dahmer and we know the basic details of Ed Gein, but most people probably don't know the details about this guy. They just mention that like, oh, he was like the vampire killer. Haha.
Nope, I'd never heard of him before.
Yeah. So I mean, people have heard of him, but true crime fans and stuff, but
right.
The details being as rough as they were, I did not know.
Yeah. So what happens? So
on May 8th, 1978, after 5 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict of 6 counts of first-degree murder.
Really?
So he was found fully responsible.
Okay.
But then there's a sanity phase of the trial. And the jury found that Chase was legally sane. And then they took another 4 hours to decide that his punishment should be the gas chamber.
Wow.
In San Quentin. After all of this, Chase did several interviews, and he claimed that his killings were justified because they were therapeutic in nature and that they were necessary for him to continue to live. He claimed anyone in the world would have done exactly as he had done if they'd gone through what he'd gone through. And he's talking about the Nazi blood conspiracy.
Right.
And this last part I'm reading directly from murderpedia.com. On the day after Christmas 1980, 1 day short of the 3rd anniversary of his killing spree, a guard looked in on Richard Chase. The condemned man was lying on his back in his bunk, breathing normally. The guard greeted him, and Richard did not answer, but that was not unusual. At 11:05, the same guard looked into the cell again. Chase was on his stomach, both legs extending off his bunk, and his feet were on the floor. His head was against the mattress, and his arms were extended towards the pillow. The guard called out to Chase, who failed to move. He went in and pulled Chase off the bed. It was clear to the guard that Chase was dead.
What?
The coroner was called. He searched the cell and located a strange suicide note talking about taking some pills. Chase had been taking a daily dose of anti-hallucinogens and some pills for depression. Apparently, he had been hoarding these pills for several days.
Oh my God.
And then overdosed.
They don't check that?
Well, I'm sure they have some system, but it must not be foolproof. The cause of his death was toxic ingestion. His heart was found to be normal and in good shape, despite his lifelong concerns. So there was no heart shrinkage.
Of course not.
Except the prison psychiatrist said that, yeah, Chase was psychotic when he came into prison, but he didn't show we didn't think he was at risk for suicide.
Oh, boy.
But I don't think most people are grieving too hard
No.
at the loss. Even you, who didn't want him
I know.
murdered or didn't want him killed in the gas chamber per se.
Per se.
You're probably not like, oh.
No, if that's how they voted, if that's the way they went, I wouldn't have been upset.
You wouldn't have protested.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is.
I warned you guys over a year ago that the next installment of American Vampire wasn't going to be as fun. Because there's no, like, we're not talking about like, oh, the folklore of the old days and what these customs were, and they put him in the stake with the burn the heart. And
no, this was something different.
Yeah.
This was major.
Yeah. Well, thank you for getting through it with all your commentary of, oh, wow, ugh.
Oh my God.
That's really all you can say sometimes.
Exactly. I had no other words.
But hey, listen, we had a very lighthearted episode last week with the cast of Rock of Ages where we just kind of went over some ghost stories.
Yeah.
Although one of them was particularly interesting, the one about a woman named Beryl Atherton. I looked into that. It's actually a pretty interesting story. She's an unsolved murder and then allegedly became a ghost that haunted a school.
Wow.
But it was only in 1950. So I'm going to look into that one.
Okay.
And do another episode about it.
Cool.
Until that time, again, please check out the website, spookyas.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/spookyas. Please, please, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcast or Stitcher, iHeartRadio, wherever you guys happen to listen. Share the show with friends. Let's grow this army of spookaroos.
Yeah.
And until next time, lock your doors. Be cautious, be careful, but don't be afraid.